you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet. Baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
And how are we doing out there all across this great land and around the world? It is that time. You're listening right now to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I am your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos from Dry Report, who's still out in, out in sick bay. Let's use a military term, still in sick bay, but he should be back, I'm hoping tomorrow. He contacted me the other day, said maybe a couple days, and that was on Tuesday. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and we don't want to rush his return because he was really, really battling some a viral infection that really needed time and rest. So we're glad that he is doing better. We'll expect him back. If not tomorrow, well, certainly next week sometime. And in the meantime, I'll be flying solo this week, as I have been all week and last week, of course, with our great conservative panel, Conservative Syndicate panel. Tonight, Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media will be joining us in the second hour. And we're gonna continue what we were talking about last night with Don Dix from Act for America, another one of our Conservative Syndicate panel members. And it's kind of a running narrative. I keep using this word narrative because it is the key word in understanding how the progressive element of society has been able to advance their agenda under the tenure of Barack Obama much more quickly than they have been other previous presidents, like perhaps Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter, Lyndon Johnson, Franklin Roosevelt, people like that. I seldom include John Kennedy when I talk about liberals because I think John Kennedy, for the most part, was more of a moderate Democrat, if you want to use it that way. I know that's one of the reasons him and Barry Goldwater had such a tight friendship. A lot of people don't know that, but they were very close friends. They had some differences in how things should be done, but at the center of their thinking and actions was a love for America and a desire to do the right thing in government. So, having said all that, I'm just saying that because the narrative is everything. The narrative is what allows people like Barack Obama to come out on a daily basis and stand in front of his teleprompter and blatantly lie. It is the narrative that has set the path for others like him, Hillary Clinton and some of the others. See, the Clintons have been liars for a long time. But Barack Obama paved the way that allows them now to do the same thing, get out and lie and cheat and everything else, and with very little repercussions other than, banter. There's banter, there's noise out there one way or the other, speculation. Sometimes there's even a type of fear that's being reflected, but it comes to no avail. I mean, it's just when you have a woman serving in one of the highest offices in our country, Secretary of State, who blatantly disobeyed rules, who blatantly disregarded her job description, who blatantly did everything and does everything the way that she feels like it, and can blatantly lie to the American public and still have a favorability rating amongst her base of whatever it is now. I know it's well above 50%. I don't know what it is because I don't pay that much attention to her. But I do understand The narrative is the reason why. And so what we're going to be doing tonight is kind of continuing this narrative, because I do believe if the Republican Party does not, regardless of who the nominee is, whether it's Cruz or Trump or whoever ends up at the top, if they do not take control, if they do not seize control of the narrative, it really isn't going to matter what they present to the public in terms of policies or agenda or even ideology or direction of the country. You've got to control the narrative. You've got to get people thinking and repeating what you're saying in such a way that it sounds positive and productive. And that's what the left has done. That's what they've mastered. Barack Obama was mentored by some of the best community organizers in the history of our country. And he learned well. And people may say he's an idiot. I do not say Barack Obama's an idiot. I would never say that. He is a schemer. He is sly. He is at least smart enough to be able to retain what he has been taught and to put it to use. Even if he's not the one actually doing it, he at least knows how to appear as be the one in control. And so that's what we need on the right. That's what we need to counter this. It is all about the narrative. And so we're going to kind of continue what we started last night in terms of I'm trying to tie three different ideas together here so that you can understand, because this is going to be kind of the path that the left is going to walk down this year in this election year, and that is the likability factor of Barack Obama, whether and vice his job approval ratings, two different things. Not very well. His job approval ratings are not very good. They've only spiked a couple times really during his administration, and that's been after the Republicans have put their foot in their mouth or conceded and given him something that they were saying that they weren't going to do. But the point being is that his legacy, I'm using the term legacy because that's the term that the leftist media uses, and that is legacy. His legacy is the key factor to how the 2016 general election will be conducted. It has nothing to do with the primary situation right now, what's going on in the primary. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders will hack it out, and whoever rises to the top rises to the top. Or if there is something coming down the pipe here as being suggested, should the email scandal of Hillary Clinton become something that is not repairable and can no longer be hidden, then who knows who might rise up out of the woodwork over there, or as I prefer to refer to it when talking about leftists, the cesspool. I was reading just today, Joe Biden is telling everybody now that he regrets not running for the presidency. So anything is still kind of out there that could happen. It's not all cut and dry like a lot of people like to make it out to be. But all this stuff is going to be laid out. So the Obama legacy, the latest stuff that's going down here in terms of gun control initiatives is one aspect of his legacy. And we're going to tie that together with what's going on up in Oregon. See, there's another aspect of this. The gun control initiatives or the executive orders that Barack Obama is saying he's going to issue really are not going to have any effect on anything. Very little effect on anything. But they set the narrative into play. And it does allow the government to conspire with some state authorities or some state organizations for the purpose of what I refer to as data mining citizens, American citizens, for the purpose of putting them on no-fly lists and terrorist watch lists and stuff like that, and being able to prevent gun sales to people that fall under this conspiratorial list that the government has been compiling since Barack Obama came in office. So these are things we're going to be talking about today, kind of all together, and they do fit into what Hillary is going to be doing and her chances of winning, should she win the DNC nomination. I'm not saying she is, I'm saying she may. And so all this stuff, we're going to try to keep tying it together, because I think it's time we look at things in the big picture and quit allowing ourselves to be limited to one or two issues that keep changing, the ever-changing revolving door of issues that keeps everybody distracted and divided and allows the left to continue to deflect the truth about who they are. So we're going to try to tie all this together. We started it yesterday. We're going to be doing it again today. So we got to go to commercial right now. When we come back, we'll get into today's festivities. I am your host, John Matthews, and on behalf of Joe Hakos from Dryer Report, who's out sick again this week, we'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by CitizensUnited.org.
We are back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hickles, my co-host, who's out this week. We'll be back next week, I certainly believe so. So anyway, let's get into today's festivities. As I said, we're going to have Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media. She will be with us the next hour, and we're going to do some in-depth talking. Karen is the founder of the organization Rage Against the Media, which is a media watchdog, and she's very good at what she does. She's been on not only this show, she is actually our senior conservative panel member here at the Conservative Syndicate, but she's been on shows like Rick Amato and people like that. She's very well known in conservative political circles, and we're going to be talking with her about some of the stuff that's going on up in Oregon, and even more into the narrative, which I know it may sound. I know yesterday I was listening to the archive of the show last night as I was in post editing, kind of clean it up for some of the podcast sites that we put the show on after we get off the air, and they have time restrictions and stuff like that. So we take out dead air and put it down into the time frame they want, that kind of thing. And as I'm listening to it, I realize that. The conversation last night kind of jumped back and forth into different areas, and that's really the way we do conduct business on this show. There is a method to our madness, is a phrase I like to say. And I'm just one of these people that I have a central thought, but I'm able to jump around on different threads and then bring it all together into substantiating the main point of what I want to drive home in on a particular topic. So that's the way that tonight will probably be like that too. So you got to kind of hang tight and listen closely, and don't get weirded out if all of a sudden I change and shift gears and go into a different direction for a while. I'll bring it all back, and you'll understand why I've done it. So, but I want to open up tonight's show with just a little bit different thing here, and then we'll get into our main discussion tonight. The homosexual movement, and I want to preface my remarks here by saying I have nothing against homosexuals. My belief is that a person that leads a homosexual lifestyle will have to deal with his or her maker when the time comes. I am not here as judge, jury, or executioner. However, I am, as a Christian, obligated and commissioned by my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ to warn you of the impending judgment should you continue down the path that you have chosen to go. And I emphasize, chosen to go. Homosexuality is not a DNA issue. It is not a identity issue or anything like that, contrary to what people like to paint it and how they like to label it. Homosexuality is a choice. It is a choice to rebel against the natural order that your Creator put in you when you were conceived. And that's really all that it is in a nutshell. All the political rancor about it, and all the discussion and all the debate and all the pseudo-intellectualism, all that stuff means nothing and will mean nothing when you stand before your Creator, as we all will, and give an account of your life. Now, some of us, heterosexuals, will be given account on different things, perhaps adultery, perhaps a willingness to lie or steal, or just a total dishonesty or mistreatment of people. So I'm not here to bash homosexuals. I am, however, very adamant in bashing homosexual activism, because activism in any form, whether it's conservative, liberal, or any other combination of the two, is for the purpose of persuading and influencing people to believe in a certain way, to grab a certain idea or ideals and to embrace those ideals, and then eventually to implement them in their own life. It is the act of persuading somebody who may not agree with you to get them to agree with you. And that is activism, whether it's conservatism or liberalism, whether it's atheism or theism. The idea is to persuade and influence. That's what activism does. You are proactive. You're out there doing something, okay? I am an activist. I just happen to be an activist that gets on the airways and preaches what I refer to as the conservative gospel. That individual responsibility and accountability is the key to civil society, and civil society, based on that, on a moral premise, can be functional. Not perfect, but functional. And we can have prosperous lives, and we can have peaceful, somewhat peaceful lives. So when I talk about homosexuality, I'm not sitting here as somebody who wants to stone homosexuals in the public square. However, homosexual activists rub me the wrong way, just as any other liberal activist rubs me the wrong way, because what they do is they perpetuate a lie. They perpetuate a lie, and they go after people who disagree with them. And so that has a different flavor to it. It's a liberal activism is about silencing and eliminating opposition. Conservative activism, real conservative activism, is expressing our views, trying to influence you, but allowing you to make your own decisions and choices. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care how many you sleep with. I don't care if you want to marry your pet dog. It doesn't matter to me, because I'm not the one you're going to stand before on your last day on this earth. And after you pass into the next world, I'm not the one that's going to be there giving a testimony of your life. You will give your own testimony to your Creator, and you will either weep or you will gnash your teeth, one or the other. So having said that, I want to get into this because my issue with homosexual activism revolves around another aspect of government, and that is social engineering. Social engineering is a very important aspect of what everything leftist activists do. When I mean by that, social engineering is taking a topic like abortion, murdering babies in the womb, and calling it health care, or calling it a choice, calling it something other than what it is. Okay, so that is a activism in its worst. It's murdering unborn children and disguising it or putting it out there as some type of choice that relates to women's health care. Now, what that means, that's social engineering. Because if you oppose abortion, you are called somebody who is you're in the war on women. The war on women. You want to deprive women of the right. See, they call it a right. I call it a choice. You want to deprive women of the right to terminate the life of their children while they're still in the womb. And we have talked about on this show how it is now getting to the place where there are certain circumstances and conditions in which people now want to terminate the life of children after they're born. We talked a few weeks ago about over in England, a case that's over in England, about a woman who wanted to undergo an abortion. The abortion failed and the child was born, and she actually went as far as going to court to see if she could terminate that life because of the fact that the doctors had failed to do what they were supposed to do. And so therefore, she should not be held accountable for having to take control or responsibility for the life of this child. Now, I do not believe that she actually went through with that, but the point is that's where it's getting. We talked about the surrogate mother who actually found out she was pregnant with twins, and the family that had hired her to have the child cut her off because she would not abort one of the children. And so this is what happens with immorality. When you license immorality and say it's legal, then you are setting parameters out there to be tested. Just like children. Children will always test their barriers. You tell them, don't put your hand in the fire, and what will they do? They will test it because the natural, inherent aspect of a fallen human being is that you don't trust what people are telling you. You have to find out on your own, that kind of thing. So when we talk about this, I talk about homosexual activism in terms of social engineering. And the best example we have out here in California is the passing of so many laws in our school system that panders to the idea and the belief that children know at a very young age what their sexual identity is. We have out here what we call the bathroom bill, where children on any given day can go into any facility in any school, regardless of their gender, and use those facilities, showers, bathrooms, whatever, because today they feel like a girl. And they're encouraged in our school systems out here in California to explore their sexual identity. And if parents now oppose this and go before the school and say, hey, I don't like this, or if you're telling your child when they come home and tell you that Johnny is really Joni, then, and you say, no, that's wrong out here in California, you can be charged with a hate crime. We've had doctors out here who have been lost their licenses, their practices, because they won't inseminate lesbians. So there's all these things going on out here and going across the country because, as Gavin Newsom, our homosexual lieutenant governor up in Sacramento, tells us, as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. And there's a lot of truth in that. So what we have here now, because of all this idea of the cyberbullying, remember, cyberbullying is the big thing in the homosexual community. Children in school being bullied at school and being bullied on the internet. How can you be bullied on the internet? If you can't see the person that's bullying you, then that should tell you right off the top that person is gutless. And that right there should render anything they say irrelevant. But children being children and being told by adults that this is wrong, that cyberbullying is wrong, and bullying people in the schoolyard is wrong, and all these, and it is wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's a natural progression of how children mature. Almost all of us were bullied at some point or another in our life. I remember being bullied in the 5th grade by a guy that was almost twice as tall as me. So I was a very short child. I was a freshman in high school, was only 4'11". And I remember in the 5th grade being bullied by a friend of mine because we became friends after I kicked his ass. He kept bullying me and kept pushing me around and kept taunting me. And one day I just let go and I just beat him to a pulp. I never had a bullying problem anymore. So instead of teaching our children to stick up for ourselves, we teach our children to find their safe space and hide and run to the adults, and the adults will handle the situation. And what do the adults do? Let's make it criminal for somebody to bully somebody, that kind of thing. Kids commit suicide. Kids aren't committing suicide because they're being bullied. They're committing suicide because they can't deal with the confusion and nobody telling them or teaching them or instructing them or counseling them on why they feel so confused about who they are when it comes to the issues like homosexuality. So what's the answer? Of course the answer is to create an environment that is safe for kids who are struggling with their identity problems, their gender identity problems. And what we have is a first-of-its-kind private school in Georgia. And it's aimed at, I'm reading an article here out of the Associated Press, it's aimed at, that means it's targeting lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender youth and teachers. And this is in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is for students who feel bullied or not accepted in traditional schools. If they feel bullied or they feel not accepted in traditional schools, we're going to create a safe space for these children by creating their own school. And who's going to run the schools? Homosexuals, bisexuals, and transgender adults. And so what are they going to do? They're going to teach these children how to become bisexual, lesbian, homosexual, or transgender and be comfortable with doing such a thing. Be comfortable with accepting the idea that you're going against the natural order of creation. And that's what's happening. Now, here's the funny side. They're doing it at $13,000 a clip. So if you are a parent of a child who has some kind of sexual identity problem, and you, instead of instructing your child and counseling your child on why they shouldn't be pursuing this kind of thing because it's against the natural order of the one who created them, you can pay $13,000 a year to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta. Yes, it's happening in a church. A church is creating a homosexual school in which you can pay $13,000 a year to this church, and they will educate your child on how to be a lesbian, homosexual, bisexual, or transgender, or the new term now, the one I really love, gender queer. You have no gender. That's the new one now. There's no gender, okay? So I wanted to open up the show with that because this is where it's going. This is where activism leads. It leads people down the wrong path. And guess what? It's going to be modeled after none other than Harvey Milk School in New York City. Harvey Milk, you'll remember who he is. They have a Harvey Milk Day out here in California, a moment of silence for one of the leading LGBT members of the school district, I think up in San Francisco somewhere, who was beaten to death by people who did not accept his homosexuality. I'm not saying beat up homosexuals. I'm not saying kill them. But I am saying to the homosexual activist movement, you need to watch your steps here because you're coming into an area that is going to upset a lot of people who in the past have just sat by and let you do what you want. It isn't going to happen anymore. It's time for a break. We'll be back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom.
We're back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, and I am your host, John Matthews. Sorry about that little glitch there. I clicked on the wrong player at the wrong time and shut off one commercial and loaded up a different one in its place. It happens. That's live radio for you. But anyway, we're back here. Okay, I want to kind of get into the narrative, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. It's kind of it may just be an almost ongoing narrative for a little while at least, because I see such importance in understanding how all these things fit together, have been fitting together, and will continue to fit together as long as the leftist movement, progressive movement, is allowed to control what I refer to as the narrative. The narrative, which means they dictate the flow of information. They are the ones out there influencing. They are the ones that are either, and what I mean by influencing is not necessarily winning people over. That's not the intent of the leftist narrative. It's not to get you on their side necessarily. I mean, if you come over to their side, hey, so much the better. But they don't really need you on their side. What they need you to do is to either become disgusted with what's going on and just throw your hands up and walk away from it, or become disgusted with what they're doing and shut up about it. It's one or the other. And so it's not so much about gaining supporters as it is about eliminating opposition. And that's what the narrative does. And so I think it's so imperative that we take control of the narrative. See, the reason the Republican Party has turned out to be such a mush pot is because none of these people want to take on the narrative of explaining what conservatism entails and why it is good for the country. We haven't had a real articulate, what do you want to call it, point person out there since Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was somebody who was able, even though Ronald Reagan, in my opinion, was not a staunch conservative, but he adhered to the conservative values that are in the conservative platform, and he understood the concept of the ideology. Now, Reagan did some things that were questionable. He did, at times, raise taxes. There's certainly the Iran-Contra affair, which is the equivalent to what we see going on today with Barack Obama and the Libyan Benghazi thing. Getting weapons into the hands of insurgents that they thought would accomplish some political agenda, and it backfired. You know, that kind of thing. So Reagan was not without his faults. However, Ronald Reagan also understood economics in terms of you make it good for the people that are providing the jobs. You make it profitable for the people that are out there building the businesses and risking their capital and putting the time into it. And you reward them, and that will trickle down into the pockets of those who work for them. That creates revenue, and revenue allows the country to run. Now, it got bastardized after Reagan left, and we had the likes of George W. Bush come in and H.R. Bush come in, and they expanded government spending, and slowly the Republican Party became unrecognizable to what it is today, and that is just an arm of the Democrat Party. It's just with the jackasses and elephant skins, as I often refer to them. So this whole idea here is it's just imperative that we, one, understand it, and two, we know how to use it to our advantage. And so I really believe that what we have to do is we have to come to this place where we start looking at the big picture, and we start putting all these pieces in the big picture. And what you'll find if you do that is that Barack Obama and the Salinsky-ites that he hangs around with have figured out how to use issues to prick the conscience of America and continually keep everybody in a state of confusion and being upset and angry. And by doing that, you can paint an angry person as the illogical one. One of the biggest problems we have on the right today is the fact that there are so many angry Americans that they don't know how to channel that into productive activism. As I said earlier, activism is taking what you want and influencing and convincing others that it is the way you need to go. That's what activism really is. And we have not really found somebody that can really harness all this and do it in such a way. The perfect example of what I'm talking about is Donald Trump. Donald Trump has harnessed the anger. I'm not going to say he's harnessed the anger. What he's done is he's channeled it. He's channeled it into an attitude that is helping him retain his popularity. But when you start putting substance behind Trump, there's not a whole lot there. See, we need somebody that can really articulate the anger into a viable plan of action and say, okay, we're angry at this. We're angry that we've had a president for the last 7 years circumvent the Constitution at will. We are angry at a Congress who has refused to stand up and resist him and are more worried about their own self-interest than the people that elected them. And all these things, and saying, well, and that's where it's been stopping. That's where it's been stagnating. We're angry. We're pissed. Let's impeach the bastard. Let's get him out of there. That isn't going to work. That isn't how it works. Because when you're the guy yelling and screaming and ranting and raving, then in the public square, you're the one that stands out as the person with a problem. What we need to do is start channeling this and taking control of the narrative. The issue with gun control right now is about Obama wanting to take our gun rights. He wants to do away with the Second Amendment. That isn't what Barack Obama is doing. He's not out to take away our guns. He's out to get us to surrender our guns. And what's he doing? He's playing the emotional factor. That's what leftists do. He's out there with his human shields. It's all about the children. There's too many children being killed on school campuses. We got people running around that are mentally ill and they get their hands on guns and they're going out and shooting people. And we need to do something about this because this just isn't the way America is. I'm sorry. It's the way every country is. Every country has its share of lunatics and fanatics. And every country has a problem with violence. That's just the way it is. So what do? Well, we're Americans. We're exceptional. We're better than everybody else. So somehow we're supposed to figure out how to do this. And although Barack Obama wants to see the Second Amendment go into the trash can, he's not out there saying, let's pull everybody's guns. What is he doing? He's increasing regulations to make it harder to sell. He's increasing regulations, making it harder to buy. And then he's got some of the states out there, like out here in California, Governor Moonbeam, Jerry Brown, saying, oh, well, let's limit what you can do. We're not going to take it away from you. We'll just limit it, what you can do. You can't buy more than this many bullets, or you can't purchase a gun that carries more than this many rounds, that kind of thing. That way they can say, well, we're not taking away the Second Amendment. We're just bringing about common sense gun safety laws, something that will contribute to the overall good of society. But you look at what Barack Obama is doing with his executive orders out there on this gun control. I've been reading these things. I looked at the White House paper on it. We'll probably talk about it later when Karen comes on. There's nothing in that is really going to stop anything. What they're basically saying is we want private owners to register under federal law as gun sellers. And all that is going to do is continue to build up the data bank that the federal government has on people that own, possess, or sell weapons. And by doing that, you now have a list of people that you can transfer to things like terrorist watch lists or no-fly lists. As we get into the directive here, or the executive order, that Barack Obama's been issuing on this gun stuff. I've got it here. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. You will see there's nothing in there that Barack Obama can actually do. He cannot go into the states and say, I mandate that this is what you do. But what he does is he tugs at those emotional heartstrings and says, if you were a compassionate, decent person, you would adhere to what I'm saying, because this is common sense. This is common sense. And anybody with a rational, compassionate heart wants to do what they can. What did Barack Obama say the other day? He said something along the lines of, well, we can't stop all violence, but if we could stop one person from being killed, wouldn't it all be worth it? No, it wouldn't all be worth it. See, that's an emotional touchscreen. That's how liberals think. If we can just save one life, then everything that we do to make everybody else's life more complicated is worth it, because we value that life so much that we give a damn about the rest of them. Of course, if you want to kill your baby in the womb, that's a whole different story. We got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll continue right here in the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. Okay, hey, we're back. And you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate. We want to remind you, you can catch this show live or in the archives. Of course, if you're listening to us now live, you know where to go. And you also know that our archives are out there, the conservativesyndicate.net. But give it to your friends. Send them the link. Tell them to check us out. And they can download the shows. They can listen to them, share them with their friends. I like sharing them with my enemies. That's my favorite thing. Send a liberal over to the conservativesyndicate.net and, maybe give them some brain candy. Just tell them, hey, I want to give you some brain candy. Everybody likes candy. I want to give you some brain candy. And anyway, so that was kind of a long introduction into what I'm getting to in terms of the narrative. And I keep harping on this because as human beings, we sometimes have to be told something more than once. I've often referred to a friend of mine, Ray Comfort, who I've worked with in the past. You may know him. Him and Kirk Cameron have been co-producing a lot of movies lately. And Ray once said, he once reminded everybody that the reason why when God calls men out, he calls them by their name, but he usually calls them twice. Hey, Abraham, Joseph, is because we don't always catch on the first time when we hear something. And so repetition is the way that we go about doing this stuff. Of course, the left has proven that to us time and time again, because that's the way they control the narrative. They just say something. It doesn't have to be true. It could be innuendo. It can be insinuation. It can be a blatant lie. It can be misinformation. It can be low information. But if you just keep beating it out there, sooner or later, in the words of Sal Alinsky, it punches through the bottom and it becomes the truth. And that's how they work. That's how they operate. They just continue to punch things out until one of two things happen. You either accept it as gospel or you just shut it off completely. And either one of those things make what they're doing successful. So this idea of Obama's legacy, the idea that what he needs to do or what he has chosen to do, with Obama, as we said yesterday, the protection or the preservation of his legacy is everything to Barack Obama. It's not so much about how this is going to reflect in America or anything else other than how he thinks he should be perceived. And if history paints him in a negative light, he and his supporters will be out there trying to once again play whatever angle they can, whether it be race card or whatever it is they choose to do to protect his legacy, because Obama's legacy is the key to who Obama is in his own mind. He is the emperor with no clothes. And so what happens is, in his mind, it's just about how he perceives himself. He could really give a damn about how America is perceived. It's how he is perceived within the construct of America and the global community. So this legacy is imperative. Now, the other aspect of the legacy, first you have the legacy, the aspect of it of his personal desire to be seen as such a great person. The greatest thing that ever happened between interracial unions was Barack Obama. That's the way he wants to be perceived and portrayed. But the other side of it is that they need this likability factor. One thing Obama has going for him, at least in his base, is that people overall think he's a pretty cool guy. It's kind of like, yeah, he's the kind of guy that I'd like to hang out with. I'd like to go down and have a hot dog, a chili dog down there with him, or maybe slam down a beer with him or whatever. He's got a likability factor because he portrays himself as a cool, calm, collective, person, doesn't get rattled, this, that, and the other. People like that. He's good at what he does, and he's good at what he's manufactured himself to be and what other people have made him to be. And so that's what it is. It is what it is. Let's give him credit. He is the Manchurian candidate, and he's very good at it. So the idea is that this legacy, this likability factor, can work to whoever ends up being the Democrats' nominee for president. Because one thing, if we just look at Hillary Clinton, this woman does not have a high likability factor. She is not a likable person. She is seen as mistrustful, corrupt, unethical, greedy. These are words in polls that are always at the top of the list. Describe Hillary Clinton in one word. These are the words that come out. She's an opportunist. She's a liar. She's a cheater. She's corrupt. She's unethical. But she still can be elected if people see her as the one that will continue Obama's policies. Now, that is where there's a little trick here, because as we talked about yesterday, some of the polls out there that the left is not sharing with the American public shows that the majority of people in this country do not like the direction the country is going. But since they control the narrative, and the narrative is not to take the negativity that's being exposed through these such things as polls. Perhaps I think we give too much relevance to polls, but it's the closest thing we have to a gauge right now. And so if we say 73% in the NBC Wall Street Journal poll says that the country's going in the wrong direction, they don't like the way Obama has been running the country, and they want somebody who will change the direction. See, that's why Donald Trump is so popular. He's out there saying, yeah, I'm going to change this thing, and I'm going to change it tomorrow. And we're going to go the complete opposite way. Now, again, substance lacking. Desire, it feeds into the narrative. And the narrative is what controls the game. So what's going on here is they need a path or a coattail or a wagon to hitch to whoever the Democrat nominee is. And based on, not on Hillary Clinton's effectiveness, not on her leadership ability or skills or her quote-unquote accomplishments, which nobody can name, it's going to be whether or not do we look at Hillary Clinton the same way as an extension of Barack Obama. So the legacy has two things going for it, or two things that they desire out of it. One, to appease Barack Obama's self-esteem, and two, to create a path in which Hillary Clinton or whoever wins, can walk easily into the White House. That's the objective here. So when you start looking at it from that perspective, and now you can see whenever something comes out in the media, how it's being portrayed as to contributing to this, I'm going to call it the likability factor rather than just the legacy, because the legacy seems one-sided. But the likability factor is something that the left has been trying to use for quite a while. Barack Obama was elected because of his likability factor, not because he showed any leadership ability. He had no leadership ability. He had no experience as anything other than a community organizer. But community organizers are, above all things, master BSers. They're able to come out there and tell you to go to hell, and you thank them for it, because that's what they do. They're salesmen. They're snake oil salesmen, at least on the leftist side. So I was talking yesterday about this poll that came out. Again, I'm going to reiterate this. NBC News, Wall Street Journal, 73% of the people in this poll said they want the next president to take a different approach from President Obama. Now, when you look at Barack Obama's favorability polls, meaning how do people perceive him as a person, he's up close to 60%. 60% of the country, or 60% of the people polled, if we take that as a broad spectrum there, think that he's a likable guy, think that he's serious, or he really is concerned about the welfare of America. They bought into the narrative. And by buying into the narrative, they just think, okay, he's a nice guy. We just don't particularly like the way he's been doing things. Okay, that's the deal here. And I'm going to touch on this briefly. We're going to go to a break here now. We're at the top of the hour. I'm going to reiterate how the media took this one particular poll and turned it around to make it look like Barack Obama has a high favorability rating as far as his, not his job approval, but his likability. And we'll tie that in. And Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media will be with us again the next hour, and we'll kind of tie all this stuff into the bigger narrative, okay? So we'll be back. Stay with us. Right now it's time for the Edwards Notebook. Don't go away. We've got to pay some bills, and then we'll be back in just a moment.
Does President Obama really believe that violence would be reduced by restricting our right to own and bear arms? Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, during President Obama's recent crocodile tears press conference, where he announced his executive action to further restrict gun sales and ownership, he feigned concern about the victims of Sandy Hook, or so it seems. The president expressed his concern about gun violence in America. To really get his point across, he even misled the American people by saying that the United States was the only advanced nation to suffer horrific gun-violent events. I guess he forgot about the recent terrorist attack in Paris, where numerous unarmed citizens were gunned down by worshippers of Allah. Unfortunately, if every gun were taken from law-abiding sovereign citizens, violence would not cease. In fact, it would dramatically increase. First of all, because more unarmed Americans would mean more potential victims for terrorists and other thugs who prey on those they perceive to pose the least resistance. Mr. President, it will take a change of heart amongst those seeking to kill, steal, and destroy to reduce violence, not taking away our God-given right of self-protection. I'm Ron Edwards.
You can catch all our archives at the conservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right, General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet. Baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Akos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Akos.
And welcome back. Hour 2 right now of the Conservative Syndicate coming to you live coast to coast and around the world. We're glad you took the time to join us tonight. And I want to make a quick response to those in our chat room right now. We had a little side conversation going on about I guess Sean Hannity is announcing something about there's more women out there claiming that they were sexually harassed by Bill Clinton. Of course, we got the Bill Cosby thing going on and all this other stuff. But anyway, I wanted to just make one statement here. The question was asked, or the statement was made. I was saying there should be a women's club for these women that seem to surface at every election cycle, and probably run by Madam Gloria Allred. Gloria Allred is a Democrat. She is a diehard Democrat. She has actually served as an advisor to Jerry Brown, our governor out here, Governor Moonbeam. She's very active in politics out here, and she's always comes up in every election cycle, some woman somewhere doing something or getting something. I remember Meg Whitman was leading a government candidacy out here a couple election cycles ago, and Gloria Allred found the Hispanic maid that was being paid under the table, illegal immigrant and stuff like that. So, yeah, Gloria Allred is as much a Democrat as Nancy Pelosi is a Democrat. So I wanted to clear that up. Anyway, anyhow. We have with us now Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media. And she's been with us. She's with us all the time. She's our senior panel member. How are you doing tonight, Karen?
I'm terrific. Thank you. How are you? And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. I think as it was weird, as you were calling in here, I think Joe Hakos is also trying to call in. It's good that he's trying to call. We'll see if we can connect it with him during the break or whatever. He's been out for almost 2 weeks now. Very bad viral infection in his lungs, and so he's been really under the weather. So I have been on this rant for almost 2 days now, and I may continue it for a while because I find it so important, and that is taking control of the narrative, taking control of the narrative that has basically, I believe, been essential in the leftist advancing the agenda, particularly under Barack Obama. And the fact that no matter what happens, they seem to take control of the narrative and either dissipate any threat to it or detract or deflect or whatever. And even though you have somebody like a Barack Obama sitting at 43% job approval ratings, manages to maintain a likability factor of somewhere around 60%. And my contention is that it's this likability factor of Barack Obama, which the left is trying to preserve in order to bring about the inevitable election of somebody like a Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders, whoever's left standing at the end of the DNC primary situation. I'm not so sure Hillary is going to make it if things keep going the way they're going. That's just speculation on my part. But anyway, I wanted to get your take on this because I know as somebody who deals with watching the media, certainly you understand what I'm saying here in terms of the narrative and who controls it.
This is everything. I could not agree more. To me, this is everything. Because people who may or may not feel that they pay attention to politics, which we know is just a handful of us, even those who don't feel they pay attention to politics know what they know. And they know what they know because the left has controlled the narrative so thoroughly, not just politicians and not just the news media, although that too, but entertainment, education, news, everywhere you turn, people know what they know because the left has controlled this narrative. They know, for example, Trayvon Martin was this cute little kid who was coming home from buying Skittles and iced tea. And that George Zimmerman was this big bully. They know hands up, don't shoot. The guy was, surrendering and was shot in cold blood by a white police officer. They know this stuff because the left is so. What else do they know? They know there's too much gun violence, that you stand all kinds of chances of getting shot in some kind of a mass murder situation because there are too many guns. Everybody knows all this bogus reality that's been crafted by the left. You and I could go on and on and on about this. Almost everything the left knows, the people who we walk among, who we live among, who we work among, everything that they know has been deliberately crafted in a false way in order to gain a deeper foothold of government control. Global warming, gun violence, rape culture, women are paid less than men, on and on and on. Every one of these things is fake and is propagated because they are able to control the narrative.
Yeah, I was thinking just the other day, we agreed on this show, Joe and I were talking one day, and we decided that whenever we talk about climate change, we're not going to call it climate change. We're going to call it weather, because that's basically what it is. But I was thinking the other day about how the left, how they transform the narrative when something doesn't work. For instance, if we talk the issue of climate change, let's talk about it the way it was originally presented to the world. Pollution. That's what it originally was pollution. Well, pollution ran the wayside because they got, California out here with our special gas mixtures and all this. And all of a sudden we started hearing reports that the pollution was falling off. It was being reduced. And so then it went to global warming. And now global warming doesn't work anymore because we have people freezing in the middle of June.
Well, you're missing the hole in the ozone layer. you're missing the impending new ice age from the 70s.
Yeah.
But yes, your point being, whenever their predictions turn out to be undermined or proven false or whatever, right? They just change it.
Yeah, they just changed the title. So we went from global warming, which no longer works, to climate change. Okay, because that can encompass anything. We're getting too hot. We're getting too cold. It's climate
beautiful.
change.
It's really, you've got to hand it to them for. I think that one's magnificent. Climate change. How, based on what can you possibly argue that the climate isn't changing?
Well, I would argue that the climate is changing. It changes every day.
Exactly.
Okay,
right.
We're in our short segment here. We got to go.
You don't have to say cooling. The hole in the ozone layer. What all the stuff that they've banned? Don't even get me started about DDT.
Yeah.
Right. What's the biggest? What the second biggest health issue in Africa? Malaria.
Yeah.
We caused that. And it's the woman, Rachel Carson, Silent Spring, who the left applauds, like they applaud Margaret Sanger, for starting the environmental movement. Yay, her, who brought this.
We got to go to a break here. This is our short segment. So we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation here with Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media. We'll be right back. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
Listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my senior conservative panel member, Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media. We were talking just before the break about this idea of the narrative. It seems to be everything is about the narrative. The narrative runs the show. It has nothing to do with ability, qualifications, anything else. It's what you can get It's what you can get the public to believe, to either influence you to join on or to shut you up and make you turn away. It's one or the other. The left doesn't care which way you go. They just as long as you do one or the other. That's what needs to be done. And I was talking yesterday, Karen, with Don. We had Don Dix on yesterday, and we were talking about this. I found this article off of CNS News. Brent Boswell revealed about this NBC News Wall Street Journal poll that found that 73% of the people they polled believe that the next president needs to take a different approach than Barack Obama. And yet the way it was portrayed when it hit the media was they pulled the numbers out. 57% of America opposes Donald Trump's banning of Muslim immigration. And Peter Alexander on Today came out and said it was more about 6 in 10 oppose Americans. 6 in 10 Americans oppose Trump's proposal regarding Muslim immigration. Meet the Press and Nightly News spent all their time talking about the difference in the race, the GOP race, 27% to Ted Cruz's 22%. Donald Trump is 27%. No mention of Barack Obama's favorability or job approval rating. And the idea being is you hide that because it doesn't fit the narrative.
Of course, exactly. Yeah. And this is what one of the things in Rage Against the Media at my organization, people say, well, where are the lies? And yes, there are some lies, but mostly the way that they control the narrative, as you point out, is by concealing those things that get in the way of their narrative. It's so easy to do. They didn't have to lie. They didn't have to make anything up. All they have to do is not let the American people know those things they don't want us to know, and to shove in front of everybody's faces those things that appear to help them. It's very simple. It requires no deliberate lying, but you control what people believe by only telling them what you want. And this is one of the things that makes me so crazy when I tell people on the left, the media is not your friend. They're lying to you.
Right.
Are you really okay being lied to? The reality is, X, Y, and Z. You're letting the media decide for you what they think it's okay for you to know. They are treating you like children. They are deliberately misleading you, and you're okay with that? I don't care what side you're on. Don't you feel you deserve being told the truth?
Yeah, one of the interesting aspects of this article that I was reading here is that, the left, this is the downside of being I guess, depending on how you look at things, this is the paradox, I guess, of being a leftist, is that you begin to believe the narrative so much that the reality of what the situation actually is disappears. And what I mean by that is when you look at the fact that, Barack Obama has a high favorability rating, but a low job approval rating. And so people will say, okay, it's a likability factor that keeps him able to do what he's doing. It allows him to continue to control the narrative. But when you look at the fact is over the course of his administration, how many Democrats were pushed out of office at all the different levels? When you talk about state levels, governorships and state legislation seats and court seats and things like this, all these things happen. See, they don't see the forest for the trees. So the idea here, what Brent Boswell is saying here, is that this may be good because if Hillary Clinton decides to run on Obama's platform, she'll get plastered. And they won't even know what hit them until the next, until January 21st, and realize that once again they lost again.
She does not have likability numbers. People don't like her. People like the idea of her as this historical figure with the right private parts, but they don't like her.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why I believe that the media is going into overdrive to protect Obama's likability factor. I call it the likability factor because Hillary has to run as Obama. If she's going, that's the way the left is seeing it. That's the way they're saying. We've got to pave the way by making everybody think that Hillary Clinton is just going to continue doing what Obama's doing, and because Obama is liked, that will it will get her in there. But the numbers are telling us that people want to go in an opposite direction. How do you explain the Trump phenomenon if it's not that people want to go in a different direction?
Yeah. Yep.
So this could be another instance here where everybody's talking about the Republicans losing because of their lack of leadership and their lack of guts and balls, or whatever you want to call it. But the fact is that they'll win by default only because of the fact nobody wants to go the direction Obama's taken us.
Well, let's certainly hope that that's the case.
I certainly hope so. I hope I'm coming up with a formidable theory here that turns out to be real.
I do too. Oh boy, I do too. I find it very scary. It seems like it's ours to lose. It's only happened once in decades and decades that the same party holds the White House after 2 terms. So statistically, the odds of us getting a Democrat in this coming November are very low. So already we've got that in our favor, and that's part of what you're talking about now.
Yeah. But then the challenge becomes is that the Republican establishment has also bought into the narrative, so they don't want to do anything.
Well, I don't know if it's establishment narrative, the narrative of the Republican establishment. I think everybody is terrified. I think the extreme right is terrified of it going establishment. The establishment is terrified of it going Trump. And I don't blame either of them. I'm sitting here just completely terrified on both counts. I'm so terrified that we wind up with Trump and that they're going to go for an adult rather than a reality TV show casino building guy who the ads against him write themselves.
I am of the belief. I'm standing firm, and I've been getting a lot of feedback from people here lately, just in the last week or so. Kind of has come to a head with the accusations out there that Trump once again is, stepping into the limelight. He's down in the numbers in Iowa, and it looks like Cruz is giving him, a run for his money, and not only in Iowa but New Hampshire and South Carolina. And so the idea, Trump being Trump and knowing what to do here, seizes the narrative and gets out there and starts floating this idea of Cruz's eligibility again. Not so much just to detract from Cruz as much to detract from the narrative itself, that Cruz is leading in some of the polls. Now, having said that, I'm of the belief that a lot of people are saying, we got to just this is going to be his downfall. This is going to be his downfall. No, this time next week, we're not going to be talking about this at all. This is just another, Trump knows how to seize media attention. He goes out and he makes a controversial statement, and everybody, all eyes turn to him.
Yep, exactly right.
And so that's what he's doing.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Is that the reality of what he says doesn't seem to affect anybody. It's really extraordinary. He can, the things that we used to say about Obama, he could be caught red-handed, breaking into a house, doing this, that, or the other thing, and the left would say, oh, well, something. They'd find some way to excuse it. We're seeing exactly that with Trump. Oh, well, it doesn't really matter. Even on the right, we have people driven by their emotions about this guy as the left was driven by their emotions about that guy. The emptiness of the rhetoric, all of it, and Make America Great Again, it's as empty as anything, but our side seems to love this as much as the left loved the emptiness of Obama. So it doesn't really matter. What will wind up making a difference is what happens when his poll when he doesn't win.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be imperative. And you just said something. This is something I was really trying to, and really what I have been trying to reiterate in ranting about this narrative issue, controlling the narrative, is that the intent and purpose of the narrative is to drive division, is to bring about anger, is to get people. And one of the things I feel that we have fallen into the trap of, especially in Tea Party, is that we've allowed the anger to override the logic and the reason. And so what we do is we get out there and we say, we got to do something about this. Obama needs to be impeached. Hillary Clinton needs to be arrested. She needs to be indicted. Well, all those things are true. But none of those things are going to happen. And so what do we need to do? We need to focus on what we do, what we want to do. We're not articulating our solutions. And this is why the media has been so effective, is that whenever the Republicans get up and say something, like I saw something today, the House has voted to repeal Obamacare 62 times now. Okay, so it becomes, it's a joke. But you don't hear anybody on our side getting out there and saying, this is why we need to repeal it. Nobody's saying that. They may give you some general, it's good for the economy. Obamacare's killed the economy. It's killing jobs. Explain to us why. Take control of the narrative and explain to us why putting health care back in the private sector hands would be better for the economy instead of just coming out and saying, yeah, it's bad.
Well, yes, but this is where they do have control, because I've read great things, especially this go-around about Obamacare, that this is actually the first time the reconciliation process has been used so that this will go to his desk for the first time. Yes, the House had done it, but the Senate never had. Right. So this is going further than it ever had. And so kudos to them for not giving up. Kudos to them for continuing. Kudos to them for using the shenanigans that the left has always been using. And now they have a platform on which to say, this, and this have been wrong about Obamacare. But again, what the politicians say doesn't matter if the media isn't going to get it out there. And this is, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, doesn't make a sound. If a politician speaks, but the media doesn't bother to broadcast it, does it matter? And what we've seen is, no, it doesn't, which is why alternative media is so important, and which is why social media is giving a voice to all of these underdog, grassroots, more active conservatives that the mainstream media will silence. And really, between Breitbart and Town Hall and Daily Signal, which is tremendous, and Facebook and Twitter, word does get out there. So yes, I fault our side for not giving coherent arguments about why we have to stand up against this, that, and the other thing. But I also know that they've tried. But if the media doesn't give you the microphone, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the things that the House has done that I actually would commend. It doesn't always, if you're going to do a show vote, okay, that's fine, as long as you do a show vote. If you're talking about doing a show vote and then you don't do it, then it becomes redundant. But if you're saying, okay, we're going to continue to try to look like we're standing on some kind of principle and we got it on record, I'm all for that. I'm cool with that. What I just wish that somebody would do is say, I was talking earlier about the fact that, Ronald Reagan was not a staunch conservative, but he understood conservative ideology and he understood how it worked, and he knew how to make his pitch. There were things he did that weren't really copacetic with the conservative ideals, but he knew how to go out and explain, just like, like Obama does. Obama gets out, he's wrong as day. He's as wrong as night. But it doesn't make any difference. He knows how to articulate what he wants people to believe. It doesn't matter if it's good or not. It doesn't matter if it's real. It's just that he knows how to do that. Reagan was like that. Reagan knew how to pitch.
Masterful.
Yeah. So, hey, we got to go to break here. We got to go to break, and we'll come back in just a moment here with Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media. Right now, though, it's time for Moments of Madness. We'll be right back. Today on Moments of Madness. An article posted at Bloomberg by Jonathan Bernstein entitled "The Trump Effect Begins to Hit Congress" illustrates very well that what is at stake in the upcoming 2016 general election is not about the GOP's concern about who they will oppose in the Oval Office, but whether or not they have a majority that allows them to protect their individual posts. Bernstein very accurately points out that whether or not Trump magically transforms into the hybrid conservative moderate formerly known as a rhino, the GOP still stands to lose in those demographics they are working so hard to win over through their continual compromise with Obama's agenda to fundamentally transform the United States of America due to Trump's unwillingness to tone his rhetoric and instead fall in line behind the bonerized yes men that rule today's establishment. But that's not all. While the GOP tries their best to convey all they need to return America to the GOP platform they themselves have dismantled plank by plank is control of the executive branch, it is quite obvious even if a real conservative like Ted Cruz, himself a member of their most sought-after demographic, should be the last candidate standing, they fear losing the stability that defines the establishment they have worked decades to create in the House and Senate. Here's the madness. The bottom line is, it is not the future of America that is at stake. It's their jobs. The likes of Donald Trump or Ted Cruz in the White House threaten those jobs. Winning to today's GOP elite is more about the individual security that comes from holding the position that equates intelligence and skill with esteem and pay while exhibiting no qualifications for the job whatsoever. We know this because the current list of establishment elites seeking the White House remain at the bottom of the pond with popularity numbers between 0 and 3%. Yet they are still the ones the media flock to and the left exhorts when upper-tier candidates like Trump or Cruz comment on the weather in hope of rising from the bottom to the top of the cesspool they thrive in. When the best you can do is whine about today's political landscape while at the same time lamenting that which once was, who cares what John Kasich thinks about legislative reform? When the best you can refer to is a past that fades like a Clinton scandal, who cares if Jeb Bush tells you he can fix what he and his family helped break? When you do not even have a number that registers on the scale, who cares what Lindsey Graham believes is good foreign policy? In fact, who cares what Graham thinks about anything except maybe his choice of wine? It remains to be seen whether or not the GOP knocks over the chessboard by forcing a brokered convention next year in hope of getting their choice on the ballot, because they know they are about to lose to the new kid in the class. But one thing is certain. Regardless of how the rules are changed, everyone knows who the brats are, and everyone knows class is about to be dismissed. Maybe, just maybe then, these elites can take the position they are most qualified for, janitor sweeping the floors of the halls of Congress. This is John Matthews for Moments of Madness. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. And you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate. And welcome back. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Karen Sigmund, our Senior Conservative Syndicate panel member. What a title. What a title. How do you fit that on a business card?
I like it. I like it.
Reminds me of that girl, what was it, the Homeland Security? You remember the hearing when the guy asked her, he said, and he read off this title. It actually took up like 2 lines when they printed it out. and says, you got the longest title in the department and you don't know what any of the numbers are that I'm asking you for?
Yep.
Well, we don't have that problem with Karen because she knows what's going on here. But,
I know what's going on. I probably know too much,
Yeah, I know. It's disheartening sometimes. Sometimes you're like, yeah, I do know too much.
Yeah. Yep.
What do they say? Ignorance is bliss.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, that's why there's so many happy
with a lot of blissful people.
Yeah, a lot of happy liberals. Anyway, within this concept, or within the idea here, the narrative, and I know at some point, I got to start sounding like I'm beating a dead horse, but it's so imperative as far as I can see that we take control of the narrative, because the left has a lot in their bag. There are a lot of stuff that they're going to be throwing out there. I happen to think that this just might be one of the dirtiest elections that we ever see in our lifetime. I can't see, especially when we get to the general election, they're going to pull out everything to try to salvage, should it be Hillary Clinton, because the way I'm understanding right now, there's even more bad news coming down the pipe here about the number of classified emails that were going back and forth across her server. And it looks like her former chief of staff, did you see the one the other day? Cheryl Mills was in the same tweet, in the same email, talking about the death of the Benghazi, Americans in Benghazi, was discussing the logo design for her company. Did you see that?
No. How it's breathtaking, these people.
Yeah, it was. It was when it just surfaced here in the last day or so. She was talking with the people. I guess she has a private company, and the people had written her an email expressing their condolences for the families of those that died in Benghazi. And after they did that, it was like, by the way, we're going to be sending you over samples of your logo. And Cheryl responded that, it's really, everything is up in the air right now. A lot of people are distraught. I'm going to be scanning these over the weekend, and I'll get back to you. I think I want the serif's font.
No.
And I'm thinking, but this is the way liberals look at things. Since everything is a means to an end, it's just another day at the office. It doesn't matter that lives were lost.
Right.
It's just, it's another day at the office. It's collateral damage for what we're trying to do. The end justifies the means.
It's unbelievable. They're venal isn't the right word. They have no humanity.
No,
they really don't. It really is. It's all agenda driven, as you say. It's all in a day's work. Loss of life affects them not at all. And I get that business goes on. I get that here's this bad thing that happened, we carry on. But to carry on in such a trivial way, it's really, and how are the kids? It's disgusting. And yet this is exactly what we've always known. Don't forget, remember what Obama did? The morning, September 12th, we discovered what had happened with the ambassador. That night, he was on Letterman.
Yeah.
And it was either that night he was on Letterman and the next day he was at a fundraiser with Beyonce, or the other way around.
Right. Well, it's like...
joking about it.
Yeah, and what was it? It was like within a day or so after the shooting out here in San Bernardino, he does a press conference talking about what needs to be done. And the guy's off to the Kennedy Center to hand out medals to people. The Kennedy Center, they're out there giving a medal to Rita Moreno.
Yep.
For breaking Hispanic barrier in Hollywood. Who the hell cares? It's just, it's amazing. The people that claim to be the most compassionate about everything and tell you that their agenda is driven by compassion are the most insensitive to what's actually going on.
Yep. Yep. It's mind-boggling. And we who do live and breathe this day in, day out, that people don't see it it makes I just can't even wrap my mind around it.
Yeah.
But you were talking about the narrative, and this is where the upside of all this, if I may, is that they do have such control over the narrative, and it does have such a tremendous impact. And yet, because of the nature of, how we all are, each one of us, you, me, everybody listening, has the power to affect change in that narrative. Each one of us, in striking up conversations at the supermarket, I did this, where was I? I went to the optometrist to order new glasses. Perfect opportunity to talk about Obamacare. Perfect opportunity. And to say, wow, there are people who thought it was going to work, but look, I've lost my insurance. I don't have my doctor anymore. Any opportunity we need to seize in order to get the truth out there. We have to. The left has been doing it. The right, you talked about how we don't stand up and speak about why this is better, the other thing. The other thing that we also don't do is we tend to come out for elections. We see politics as in the realm of elections. The left sees politics in every possible interchange between people. Every conversation, every time people interact, it's an opportunity to propagandize. We need to do that too.
Yeah, it seems that when we're talking about the concept of the narrative, the left has designed the narrative more about discouraging voter turnout than encouraging voter turnout. And, when you bring things to the forefront, for instance, the big argument from the left about voter ID laws is that we're disenfranchising voters, and we're making it impossible for people who can't afford or can't make it in to get an ID and all this, that, and the other. And that's their pitch. You guys are trying to keep people from voting. But in actuality, they really don't want people to vote. What they want is here's the equivalent. Let me give you a real good example of what I'm talking about. I've talked about it before in this show. School board elections, a microcosm of what the left wants when it comes to national elections. In a school board election, in a city of Norwalk, where we have over 350,000 people, and we have a school board election, you're lucky to see 2,500 people show up at an election for a school board member. Now, out of those 2,500 people that show up, 1,500 of them are teacher union people.
Right.
So they select their candidate based on how that person is going to help the teachers union. And, they go out and they campaign. They put their signs up in the lawns and everything. But the only people that show up are the union people. So the union people are electing union operatives. And that's why we have our schools now so easily convinced to grasp social engineering mandates handed down from the federal government and bribed through state money, or given to the states are bribed by federal money, passed down to the schools. They have no problem with this. I was talking earlier in the show about this private school in Atlanta, Georgia. Did you know they're opening up a private school in Atlanta, Georgia? You can send your transgender, bisexual, homosexual child to this private school for $13,000 a year to be taught by homosexual, bisexual, transgender teachers.
Good grief.
Because they need a safe space. The word they're using is child protection. We're protecting the child from cyberbullying and not being accepted in traditional schools at $13,000 a clip.
Unbelievable.
Jeez. I'm like, man, you guys need to go into partnership with Jeb Bush and implement Common Core. You guys can make $1 million doing this.
The parents.
Yeah, can you imagine a parent doing that?
Make this choice.
Can you imagine a parent spending $13,000 to train their kid to be gay?
I'm sitting here shaking my head. I'm speechless.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling, is it not?
It's so, and yet, how far we have fallen.
Yeah, because
parents are going to think this is a great idea.
And they think it's a great idea, and if somebody like us stands up and says, "This is not productive," we're the homophobes. We're the ones that hate. We hate everybody. We hate everybody that's not white and Christian. It's amazing to me. It just, I posted it on my Facebook page today, and the first thing I got, one of my favorite liberal friends, who tells me she's a Christian. She's like, yeah, well, it's so much better if they get bullied to death. I'm like, you're missing the whole point.
Exactly.
See, the narrative is, we're doing this to save the kids from being cyberbullied. No, you're doing it as social engineering.
It's absolutely social engineering. And if they think that this is the thing that kills me, is that even if they're so misguided as to think this is a good idea now, how do they not see that in fact it's not only not good, but it is overtly so bad? What kind of child is going to graduate from this school? Yeah. What will they know? What will they think? What will they see? What will they believe?
And what are you going to do?
To what extent will they be at all prepared to cope with the real world? Because we're already seeing this. I talk to people, employers hiring kids straight out of regular high school or even college, not to mention a loony bin like the one you're talking about. They are not prepared to work.
Right.
All they know how to do is stand up for themselves, which is not a useful talent. You need to actually do some work. Yeah. They know how to make themselves have good self-esteem, but they cannot do what anybody asks them to do.
Yeah, and what are you going to do in this school for homosexuals when it comes to light that the coach is Jerry Sandusky?
Of course, when your kid has been raped,
right?
When pedophiles who embraced, as it were, by
it's amazing. We were just talking last week about a basketball team that 3 of the players on a basketball team have been charged with sexual assault, raping their teammate. In a hazing incident, they raped their teammate at a tournament. And you know what the school did? They took them off the basketball team.
Well, at least they didn't give them a participation medal. I guess that's something.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, hey, we got to do a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue here with Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media. Don't go away. We'll be right back. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. 866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you have been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
And we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I want to remind everybody, check out our website, theconservativesyndicate.net. You can pick up the archive of this show in about an hour and a half, or any of our shows, or find out anything you want to know about the show. Go to theconservativesyndicate.net. I want to shift the dialogue here just a moment here. For the time that we have remaining with Karen Sigmund from Rage Against the Media, to the Oregon standoff, because we've been talking about the narrative for the last 2 days, and I want to just real quickly here give you an example of how what's going on up in Oregon feeds into the narrative. That I said at the beginning of the show, I was going to kind of go roundabout here. I want to start putting things in the big picture for people so that you can understand when these little separate issues pop up in the news. It is to remind you that they all fit into the narrative collectively. That's where I'm trying to go with this thing. Now, the situation up in Oregon, of course, Ammon Bundy, the son of Cliven Bundy, down in of Las Vegas or Nevada fame. You'll remember last year the standoff with the Bundy Ranch. And he's up in Oregon, and they seized control of a federal land reserve office up there, and they've been standing off for the government. And there's two things that they want. They're not going to get either one of these things, but it's what they want. They want the federal government to relinquish control of wildlife refuges so that people can reclaim their resources. And second, they want an easier sentence for the father-son ranchers, the Hammond boys, who were convicted of committing arson on federal lands in Oregon back in 2006. The story being they had set fire to their land to remove some vegetation that was hurting their land or whatever. The claim by the government is that they were trying to cover up poaching of deer up there. And the fire spread to some federal land, federally held land. And so these gentlemen were sentenced to initially a year, I think. I think the father was sentenced to probation, and the son was a year. And then they had some liberal judge come in after the initial sentence and changed it and said they got the mandatory 5-year sentence, both of them. So there's this big standoff up there. Now, the thing I wanted to point out here is that how the media is missing what the big issue is here. And we're going to go to none other than my favorite girl to bash on the media right now, Megyn Kelly. And she was interviewing Ammon Bundy and was trying to, I guess, paint Bundy in the corner that basically, look, these people went to court, their case was heard, they were tried, they were found guilty, and therefore whatever happened to them is and they've relinquished, they've surrendered, they willfully accepted what was put upon them. Why are you making a big deal about this? And Bundy responded was, well, who was the plaintiff? Who was the one that filed the charges against these men? And apparently Megyn Kelly did not answer, or would not, or could not answer him, but gave him one of her icy, I'm the big girl looks, that kind of thing. And he said, Bundy went on to say this. He said, the plaintiff is the federal government, and yet the prosecutors are the federal government. And those who want their land is the federal government, and those agencies that have been oppressing the people here are the federal government. There is no proper redress because the design and structure of this government is not intended for the federal government to come down against individuals in the state on these matters, and that is what this is all about. What he's saying is the federal government has chosen to be judge, jury, and executioner.
Right.
And I think that is a solid constitutional grounds for an argument. Not that I agree with what they're doing, but I agree why they're doing it. What's your take on that?
That's brilliant assessment, and it really does show how it's gotten harder and harder for citizens to have a voice, and harder for citizens to play. It was supposed the government by the people, for the people, of the people. I probably have that in the wrong order. It feels less and less like that. It feels less and less like American citizens are participants in our legislature, and certainly in this case in the judicial system. And it's unfortunate Megyn Kelly didn't get what was going on, but what a great summation that she did bring out of him. So that's something. But when we've got the federal government involved to such an extent in our lives, I mean, if you look at the map of Oregon, it's extraordinary how much land the federal government has. Mm-hmm. There's less and less space. I don't just mean geographic space. I mean space in civic life for private enterprise, for private ownership, for private decisions. I was just reading yesterday, we have a new mall here. Oh, great, private enterprise. The extent to which it is tangled up with city, with state, and no doubt at some point with federal, there's less and less of a line between private and public, which means they can pull strings to a greater and greater and greater extent. I think it's Dennis Prager who said this, the bigger the government, the smaller the individual. And that's what keeps happening. They whittle away. I don't know exactly all the details with this family. I've read a number of things. I don't know if what they're doing is the right thing. But at some point, and this may well be the point, we have to start standing up against the federal government. Cliven Bundy did it. These people are doing it. Who's the federal government to do what they're doing and take this much land, to take this much control, even going down into the judicial system? We have to start reasserting individual rights, the right to private ownership of land, because whatever they say, oh, this is a good thing, the federal government can take control of this. As soon as they do that, they put in all kinds of regulations of what can and can't be done, and so on, and they leave less and less space for us. Yeah. And when there is no redress, when there's nowhere else to turn, and that's a lot of what public employee unions are all about. Right. That it's the individual doesn't stand a chance when it's the government on one side and the government on the other side. Where are the people? Yeah. Who's defending the individual? Yeah. And that's exactly what keeps happening. Yep. Nobody left to defend the individual.
Yeah, I've got to interrupt you here. We're out of time.
So fast.
But it does, this kind of thing now, we're talking about the narrative, it feeds into the gun control narrative too. Because
absolutely
now
it does.
So all these things fit together. We're going to continue this discussion tomorrow. But Karen, I want to give you a moment here to plug your website.
Well, yes, and this is exactly why Rage exists, and this is why we're ramping up. I'm actually starting to talk to people, a little bit more. Truth Fest, because they do dominate the narrative in the various manners that they do, but each one of us still does have the power to make a difference, and that's what Truth Fest is all about. So find us on Facebook, Rage Against the Media. Follow us on Twitter at Media Rage. And find our website where I'm going to be posting more and more about Truth Fest, rageagainstthemedia.org, and help us take back the narrative.
All right. Thank you, my dear. Thank you
so
much.
My pleasure.
Okay, guys, we're done for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow, 3 o'clock out here in the West Coast, 6 o'clock on the East Coast. God bless you all. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all of our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's the conservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best and uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, It doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, signing off until next time, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.